Hello, my name is Praveen, and I'm the DPP lifestyle coach, lifestyle participant today.
Hello, I'm Aditya, and I will be your DPP wellness coach for today. So today's module is basically about getting back on track after having what's called a lapse. And what a lapse is, if you scroll down here, uh, we have basically it's about getting back on track with your eating and activity goals after you slip up. Maybe you miss your physical activity goals for the week, or maybe you don't eat as well as you initially planned. So in this session, we'll talk about how to get back on track with that by staying positive and following the 5 steps of problem solving. Um, so some basic tips here. There may be times where you fall short of your goals for a week or two, so that's called a lapse, and it's very normal. And a lapse is a big deal only if you let it become one. Whatever you do, don't give up.
Hmm.
So here we have a story. Praveen, why don't you go ahead and read
Yeah,
that?
sure. Everyone goes off track. Kofi is at risk for type 2 diabetes, so he's trying to live a healthy lifestyle. For 2 months, Kofi does great with his eating and activity goals. As a result, he loses 9 pounds. But on Friday, some of Kofi's coworkers are laid off. Well, I guess it's appropriate. We have recession time going on now. And he's worried that he'll be next. He decides to prove himself to his boss by working extra hard. On Monday, Kofi comes to work early. That means he doesn't have time to pack his lunch in the morning. So he gets a candy bar from the vending machine instead of having a healthy lunch. To impress his boss, Kofi skips his usual lunchtime walk and then instead sits down at his desk and works through lunch. I mean, this is common nowadays. As a result, he doesn't get enough activity. So Kofi does the same thing each day that week. By the weekend, Kofi is mad at himself, getting off track with his eating and activity goals. He gained 2 pounds. He feels like he's so off track, he doesn't know how to restart. He feels like giving up. And this is very common. And then, so now, what do we do? How do we solve this one, right? So now Kofi decides to take action to get back on track and prevent similar lapses in the future. He knows that it is natural to get off track sometimes, but that is also important to stay positive. He tells himself that he has made so much progress, that even though he has had some lapses in the past week, he can recover from them and get back on track. Kofi also uses the 5 steps of problem solving to help himself get back on track. Right. It's very
Yeah.
positive. Okay, let's go to the
Mhm.
next. Mhm.
Yeah, so looking here, we have the 5 steps of problem solving. So
Mhm.
the first is describe your problem, then come up with options to solve the problem,
Mhm.
choose the best options from those,
Mhm.
make an action plan, and then finally try it and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So step one, first, Kofi clearly describes his problems. He realizes he's doing two things that have taken him off track, and
Mhm.
he also thinks about what causes those
So what
lapses.
would be the first one? I guess the problem one would be, let's see, what was the first problem? I'm trying to remember. Okay, so he comes to work early. So not okay. So first one is he's not packing lunch, right? And eating from vending machine, right? What was
Yeah.
the other problem?
The next problem would be that he skipped his lunchtime walk and sat at his desk and worked during lunch.
Okay, so that's good. All right. So
And
okay.
and
Mhm.
then we have the root cause as
Mhm.
him basically fearing that he might lose his job because his coworkers were laid off.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then step two, come up with options. So
Mhm.
Praveen, what do you think are some ways he can deal with his worry of losing his job?
Yeah, I think if he's worried about losing his job, I think some of these ways that he can do is, he can kind of definitely not stress about it. If he's worried about, trying to impress the boss with longer hours, I would just recommend him, waking up a little early and then, wake up, a little early and pack lunch. Or or plan for the whole week, and pack lunches, pack healthy, healthy lunches. The other thing that he could do is, for the other one would be like, for example, he wants to add more steps to his daily routine. I would recommend, him taking a little break. I think it's even though it might be good to talk to your boss about it, but in those terms it's kind of a very sensitive topic. If he's not comfortable talking to your boss, then I would recommend just having adding steps after coming home, so that you know those are some of the wins. But just keep in mind that you need to, there are always options. When you lose a job, it's you can always get another job, so not worry too much
Yeah.
about losing job. And then in this process, don't lose your health, because you need your health.
Yeah, it's important to keep
Mhm.
things in perspective. And definitely your health is very important. Um, Next, Kofi brainstorms some way to change what he has been doing and to make sure he eats a healthy lunch each day. Well, we kind of went over that in the previous question too, waking up a little early,
Mhm.
planning for the whole week.
Mhm.
Uh, Overall, in this sort of generally it can be easy to prioritize work first over your health. Sleep, especially, is an example of how people might deprioritize that and focus more on work. But it's important to remember that
Mhm.
maintaining health is as important as going to work and doing all that, and you shouldn't be uh, sacrificing one for the other.
Right. And there's also a lot of healthy eating places. Like, for example, any of the grocery stores sometimes have healthy, lunch options where they have salads, and they have stuff that with little salt, with less salt. So you can choose some healthy options to purchase as well. Go for a break, lunch break, walk to the nearest like restaurant, and buy healthy lunch or something like that, if you can afford it. So all right,
And
so
then
yeah, so I guess yeah, buy healthy choices in nearby places. um you know pack pack lunches for the whole day ahead of time. Also, like, do some chair exercises if it's if it's okay, right? You can stretch while you're working. It might feel a little odd, but and then so stuff like that. You don't always need to go for a 20-minute walk. You can do a lot of things while you're sitting, breathing exercises, etc. They're
definitely.
all useful. Hmm.
So then he does the same to figure out how he can be sure he gets enough physical activity each day.
Hmm.
Um, so kind of what we said earlier about adding steps after coming home as well as chair exercises.
Hmm.
Um, any other thoughts on that, Praveen?
Yeah, so it's also good to just take breaks, every 10 to 15 minutes, go for a walk around your office, and go say hi to your coworkers, and then, or your boss, and then come back, go for a water break, and then go take some breaks. So this way you add more steps While you're at your desk, you can try to play with your feet, and there's some foot exercises that you can do as well to add some more steps. Have some weights in your office. So, like for example, you can even do it with a book, or even with like some anything. I mean, if it's not considered too crazy, you can do all those things at the office as well. And then breathing exercises are always good. There are many types of Indian breathing exercises like Kapal Bhati and Anulom Vilom and so Bastrika and all that. So if there is a private place in your office, you could just go do those things like a meditation room or a prayer room. If not, just go outside and find a place when there's nobody there, and then you can do these things as well. So I think yoga is pretty common these days in the US, so I don't think anybody would mind if somebody does those exercises as well. So
Yeah. Okay, so that was step 2. Now step 3, choosing the best options. After Kofi comes up with these options, he decides he wants to try these 2 in the next
Mhm.
week.
Great.
So maybe let's say he tries planning for the whole week and packing healthy lunches, and then maybe he also tries chair exercises or exercises that he can do while in the office.
Mhm. Yep,
Uh,
absolutely. All right. Mhm.
yeah, just a quick question for Praveen.
Mhm.
How important do you think that step is of choosing the best options? If you have all these options, why not do all of them?
Right. I think so. It's not possible to use, time wise, it might not be permitted. I think and then you can also see like which is actually more optimal for the particular situation. So based on those constraints, you can pick one, and then that actually suits you best,
Yeah,
right?
I agree. And also going off of the previous classes, we
Right.
have this theme of making small changes. So,
Mhm.
you can start off with those 2 and then maybe add other options if time and resources allows.
Right.
Uh,
Mhm. Like for example, I mentioned that, well, you could do some like some of the exercises, maybe it's not allowed, doing stretching in the office, maybe it's not allowed. So it might be a good option for some people, but not maybe a good option for him. So like that, you have to choose. Yeah.
Okay, so step 4 then is making an action plan. So using that action plan journal to be more specific about what the action is, where it will happen, how long will it happen for, the challenges you might face while doing it, and then ways to overcome those challenges.
Mhm. No, absolutely. I think that, I think what did we decide? We decided that he will
Pack
pack
lunches for the
lunches
whole
for
week.
the whole week. So this can happen where will I do it? At home,
Home.
right? And then how long? It doesn't take that long. Well, reasonable amount of time, right? Um, you know, so and then challenges, hard to plan for a whole week, right? And then all ingredients might not be there, so etc. So, but if you plan ahead, with a good trip to a grocery store with the plan in your hand, then you can get all the ingredients.
Yeah, planning for lunches for the week would probably also require planning trips to the grocery store
Grocery
and
store.
wherever you need to get ingredients from.
Yeah, it's good to have a plan before you go to the grocery store so you can get all the ingredients that you need.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I guess plan early and use plan to purchase items required for cooking, right? Um,
Okay, and then action 2, we said doing chair exercises or exercises that you can do in the office.
yeah, and where will I do it?
In the
Office.
office.
Yeah, I think I would recommend, 10 to 15 minutes, if possible, and then, maybe 2 times a day. That's pretty good. I think, CDC recommends that you have to do 150 minutes of exercise every week. If you can do all that in a day, like 30 minutes a day for 5 days, I think it's definitely a good idea. You can get it over with. So the challenges I might face, interruptions, right? Meetings, etc. So where to schedule overcome these changes, always schedule some
I
time.
think I
Mhm.
think maybe another potential challenge, if you're not in an isolated space, you might get some strange looks from your
Right.
coworkers, and that could make
Mhm.
you
Make
feel
you
ashamed of
uncomfortable.
it or something.
Yeah, it will make you uncomfortable, right? Mm. But yeah, schedule some time, find a private location, right? And then sometimes, ask your coworkers or, or boss, right? Where you can find these places.
Okay, and then finally for step 5, we have trying
Mhm.
it. Now that you've made this plan, put it into action, see how it goes, and make any adjustments if necessary.
Mhm.
And we have part 3 of the story here. Praveen, why don't you
Yeah.
go ahead?
Yeah. So Kofi tries out his awesome action plan and it works. He now manages to eat a healthy lunch and get enough activity every day. By using the 5 steps of problem solving, he was able to identify what went wrong and how he could fix it. He was able to see the root cause of his problems and to remind himself that even when circumstances are not good, he can still make healthy choices. He's proud of himself for getting back on track with his eating and activity goals. That's amazing that he's actually, he's able to validate himself, and that's always a challenge. A lot of people look for validation from outside, but I think,
Yeah,
if you can really motivate yourself, with internally, I think that's just great. Then
that's
you have
true.
this is guaranteed.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
really nice that he was able to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, so finally, we have something that you can fill out yourself.
Mhm.
Think about issues that have caused or may cause you to
Mhm.
get off of track with your eating and activity goals. Start with one problem and then stay positive and use the 5 steps of problem solving, which is clearly describing the problem,
Mhm.
coming up with options,
Mhm.
picking the best options,
Mhm.
making an action plan, and then finally trying it and seeing how it goes.
Yep.
So before we close off here, Praveen,
Mhm.
how would one sort of, do you have any tips for how one might be able to overcome the initial surge of guilt that one might feel for losing track of their plans? Because, it's called a lapse, and they might feel like, oh, okay, a lapse is my fault.
Right. I think that, past is past. So there's no point in, brooding over the past, right? So definitely we want to learn from it. I mean, it's understandable that if a lot of, it's not like, it happened for a reason. And, self-acceptance is the key, right? You should always accept your faults, don't be your worst critic. And, and then try to, learn from it and move on. So there's no such thing as a lapse. It's like, stepping stones for future success. So I think that's the way to look at it, I guess. Yeah, easier said than done, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a good way to think about it. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Staying positive is important, and uh, to have lapse, you had to have come up with an action plan in the first place to lapse from. So the fact that you were able to make a plan to change your eating and physical activity shows that you can do it, and
Right.
even if you did lapse, you can always get back on track.
Right. No, that's a great point. I mean, you should at least you have a plan that, like you said, that's a good thing. Mhm.
All right, so that concludes today's module.
Mhm.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for joining. Have a good day.
You,
Okay,
yeah,
bye.
bye.